Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us here at BLG 18. I'm Paul B, and you know MJ. Got a couple of comments that came in last week, and we figured we would address them.
Yeah, and I want to clear a couple of things up first. I'm in a different seat today because Paul said I look better than he did in the other seat. So I just want to make it. I think he does look better in the other seat. So I am again, since he's a production, he's in charge of production. So if you have any problems with production or sound or anything else, it's I'm just a fluff. I sit here but anyway, yeah. What we want to talk about it. A couple people have brought it up, and you can't avoid it. And you can't avoid it because if you're going to start a new business today with the political climate the way it is, and let's face it, it is a bit unrest. To open a small business today is probably more of a challenge than it's ever been. And we're gonna do this over two series. What are the challenges of starting your own business in the climate that we're living in today, and what effect it's going to cause on your success. And I also think the climate's changing on the golf course too. I don't think people are going to be. I shouldn't say this, but as things get tighter, I wonder if it's going to affect the golfers because a good golf course you pay $150, $160 to play a round of golf, and I don't know if people really are comfortable spending that kind of money anymore.
In that context, yeah, because really golf is disposable income in that context. And especially retirees, disposable income is starting to shrink. There's less and less of it around. So they're going to have to make decisions on where they're going to spend that disposable income. And golf is definitely going to suffer, just like any sport that charges, whether it's a monthly fee or whether it's a daily fee, like a golf course. Something like pickleball probably wouldn't suffer because, you go out, you pay $10 for a court for an hour, you pay $10 for a court for an hour. But you're right, to go on a golf course and have to put out $200 when you're not sure, given the political climate, you don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months? Yeah, I can see it.
So let me drill down as what the problem is with the political climate. If you're a minority, I think it's going to be harder for you to get, well, for one thing, walk away from any kind of federal funding for any business. There used to be businesses for small communities. There used to be business to help rehab small communities. I think that's going to be a tougher call this year. If you're in a Democratic state like New York, I think there still may be some help there at the state level. But even then, it's not going to be the same as it was.
Yeah.
So, when you really look tough at what's going on today, starting your own business, you better make sure you know what you're doing. Now, the other problem is from what I'm reading, there's more and more people losing their jobs, which is the perfect setup for people. Well, I lost my job. I know how to do this, that. I'm going to start my own business.
Right.
Do yourself a favor. Look at the want ads. Trying to start your own business because you lost your job, it just adds more pressure to the pressure you're at home, trying to survive, not having your income, and then on top of that, going into whatever you do have saved to start a new business. Will it work? Yeah, for some people it'll work. Other people, it's just a bad idea. So you have to really sit down and say, okay, and to sit down with your significant other and say, are we ready to take this kind of a risk? Should we do it? What should we do? I had a lady come into me years ago, and she made great cupcakes, and she wanted to open up a bakery just sold cupcakes.
Right.
And it was in a small village, about 3,000 people. And I told her, I said, how many cupcakes do you think you need to sell a day to support a storefront, and everything else? And she really had no idea. And I said, if you think about it, you got to sell a lot of cupcakes. Anyway, after talking to her, I said, if you want to do this, you're starting out of your home. Maybe you want to sell them at the public market or put them in different spots where you can sell individually, and you go around and develop a name for yourself. And then once you develop the name, then probably your storefront is probably your next best step. But by then you have an established clientele. So, if you're in New York and Manhattan and you want to sell cupcakes, that's fine. You got thousands of people walking by you every day. You're going to sell cupcakes,
Right.
okay?
Right.
But in today's market, it's really hard for you to make that decision to get into business for yourself. And again, the advantages you used to have as a woman-owned business, unless it's a state, I don't think the advantages are there anymore for you.
Yeah. See, and that's interesting. So yeah, I know
Excuse me.
Corey had sent in a message about he's looking to start a business. And in this climate, is this really a good spot? In his context, could he start off, I don't know what his business is, but could he start off doing, small local fairs and things like that?
Well, it depends.
Just to test
Are you
market?
selling a product? Are you making a product? Or are you selling a service? So you got to approach all those differently. If you're making a product, then you got problems with inventory and supply, and you got to make sure that, or how would you like to be you always want to open a little gift shop. Well, you go look at a gift shop, 3/4 of the merchandise in there comes from China or Mexico.
Right.
So do you really think this is the right time to open up a little gift shop in a small little community? Because that's what you always wanted to do?
Right.
I would say no. It's not the right time, and I just wouldn't think it. If you want to open up a bakery or something like that, where you're making something that you can redistribute out of your bakery, along with a storefront, then that's something you may want to look at. But even then, or how about all the people who open up coffee shops? Another good example is all those. I just read in the Diamond, they're dropping like flies. Is all those craft beer places.
Oh, right.
Everybody wanted to open up. That was the newest thing, craft beer. I got to, okay. And now they're one in every corner. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
With the economy the way it is, people are not going to pay that kind of money for a glass of beer.
Right.
I learned a long time ago, and I hate to be monopolizing the conversation, but
No, John.
the way governments know what kind of shape the economy is, they go to places like a large chain store, like a ShopRite or something like that. And you know what they check? They check boxed macaroni and cheese. When times are good, nobody buys boxed macaroni and cheese.
That's interesting.
Right? And when things are bad, they buy. And that's how they can tell if the economy is going in the wrong direction. And I'll guarantee you right now, matter of fact, I was in the grocery store the other day, which in itself is enough reason to give you a heart attack.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, you're seeing end displays with sales on boxed macaroni and cheese. That tells me that the economy's in trouble. And again, also, big businesses are going to get bigger because that's just the way. I guess that's just the way they want it to be. And I'll leave you with this, and I'll let Paul take it over. When there's a big business out there, and you're a little business, and you grow, and all of a sudden you say you want to go after the big business because they're doing something unfair, maybe unfair pricing. And I've been part of those conversations. The guy says that the big business gets their corporate lawyers, and they have this little guy trying to go after him. He says, listen, this came out of the lawyer's mouth. He can throw pennies in the water. We can throw dollars in the water. He'll run out of pennies before we run out of dollars. And that's the reality of it. And that's why the small guy very seldom comes out on top, because the big companies, when they want to be, are complete bullies. And it looks like right now, the way the world is going, the big companies are going to be the overpowering part of our country for now, anyway.
Okay, well that brings up an interesting scenario. So we know that the current generation that's out there coming out of high school and college really isn't interested in working for big business. And they're not so much, they're interested in almost starting their own business if it's online. Big business depends on people coming out of high school and college to work for them at, crappy wages. That's what they depend on. So now if you have a generation that's looking to start their own businesses and not work for those crappy wages for those big companies, how is the big company now going to compete? If they don't have workers, they have no way of producing product or selling or whatever they have to do to that product. How can they compete now with maybe an overrun of smaller businesses that go out and maybe this guy takes a little here and this guy takes a little here and this guy? Can the big box stores, after a while, aren't they going to run out of money?
No, because they'll downsize. What they'll do is they'll automate more. They'll use AI more. They will ask fewer to do more. And that's how they're going to compete with the little guy. And let's face it, the little guy can sell coffee for $1.80. If the big guy really wants to go after him, they can sell for 75 cents a cup until the guy goes out of business.
Yeah.
So they really, and the other problem is you have every year, you're right, you have kids graduating from high school that don't want to go to college. You have kids graduating from college that are getting into the workforce. And you have massive layoffs going on right now, as we're seeing all over the federal government.
Right.
So you put that all into the pool, and what that's going to drive down is going to drive down wages because more people are going to go for those jobs, and there's no incentive for the companies to pay more wages when they can get you cheaper. That's just the way it is in the world.
Right.
And
right.
Now, when you get out of college, your friends, why don't we open in our college town? Let's open a bar. Let's do this. Let's do that. Yeah, okay, fine. That might work short term, but what's your long-term goal?
Right.
What's your long-term goal? Yeah. And I hate to be such a pessimist, but I don't know what the long-term goal of a young person is today. I would be worried about trying to move up the corporate ranks because as things get tighter, people won't retire. They'll stay there longer. And especially if things happen with your Medicaid, Medicare, or retirement age. Mm-hmm. So now the slots above them aren't going to open up as quickly as they used to because everybody would take the buyout or retire early.
Right.
That's not going to happen. So if you notice what's happening, you're going to have a backup all the way down. Does it mean you shouldn't start your own business? Absolutely not. You should start your own business. Just make sure you know what you're doing and make sure you really, really know what your market is.
Right.
And the other thing, which is very important, Paul, and I mentioned to you, it's really location, location, location.
Right.
Don't open a bakery shop in a 3,000 person, just to sell cupcakes. It's just not going to happen.
Right. See, and that's interesting because you're saying that, and as you're saying that, I'm comparing those same steps that you're talking about business. I think about life, and I see how the parallel between, like you're talking about, well, they're getting out of high school. Do they want to be in the workforce? Do they want to run their own business? Do they want to go to college? What do they want to do? They have to make life decisions coming out of high school. And I don't know an 18-year-old that is so focused that they know, absolutely, here's the path I'm taking. I know exactly where I have to be, blah, blah, blah. So now they start coming out of college, they have debt. And they know they got to pay this debt off. And the only way to pay debt off is to either start a business and create more debt and then hopefully overrun that debt with profit, or they're going to have to get a job, or both. And we discussed that a week or two ago.
Yeah.
We discussed the idea of, sometimes you have to get a job when you're starting a business.
I knew a kid, graduated high school. His parents helped him get a camper, the truck. He hooked up with this outfit that was putting employees all over the country for doing wind farms. And he got certified as a bulldoze operator. And he's been in North Dakota, South Dakota, Mexico. He's been all over the country, making a lot of money. But then he called me the other day and he says, I think there may be a problem. I said, what's that? Well, it looks like the credits that you get for wind farms are going to go away, which means building wind farms isn't going to happen anymore. He said, now what do I do?
Right.
Well, I don't know what you do. I really don't know what you do.
Yeah, what do you do?
He saved a lot of money. He's got a lot of money. He said, I'd like to start my own business, maybe being, bulldozing and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I said, that's fine. You may want to try that, come back, but, come back home and work it out of there so your overhead isn't too bad. and get it started slowly.
Yeah.
But yeah, wind farms are going to dry up, unfortunately, because they're just not going to give the tax credits. The same thing with a company that was making those solar panels.
Oh yeah.
They're getting hit hard because now you're not getting a tax credit for putting in solar panels.
Right.
So you see, the government, little by little, is taking away everything from you that gave you the incentive to do something different.
Right.
And it also gave people that are starting up a new business the incentive to keep growing their business. So, is it wrong?
Yeah.
I don't know. There is one theory that if you teach somebody how to limp, that's all they know how to do is limp. So in one way, the subsidies are teaching people to limp. Now, and if they can't make it without the subsidy, then maybe they shouldn't be in that business.
That's interesting you say that, because it's the federal government in the United States, at least. That's how they pushed people wanting these things. The government came out and said, hey, I'll give you a subsidy. I'll pay for a portion of your wind farm. I'll pay for a portion of your house to go solar. And they used it as like a real incentive for people to create that economy, that part of the economy. Now they're taking it away.
But even in that case, the only people that really got rich on those are the people, the owners, the people up high, not the little guys that got a few pennies off their electric bill. It was nice. They gave them a little taste, but the guys that made the money are the guys that built these huge solar farms and huge wind farms.
Right.
The people at the top made a big dollar, so that if it goes to the toilet, they're just going to take their money and go play someplace else.
Right.
And you're stuck with a panel that really doesn't pay for itself.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. Right. So it's it.
See, and the reason I bring up the incentive concept is you talked earlier about how the small businesses, the minority businesses and all, could get help from the federal government because of their status. They could get help from the local governments as well. And when that portion of business becomes dependent on that kind of government help, then when the government takes it away, you decimate the entire part of the economy. And you still have people who want to do it, but now they've got to come up with 100%.
Yeah, and people say, oh yeah, but I also know big companies, when they threaten to move an area, I used to call it corporate welfare. Mm-hmm. The state and the federal government gives them all kinds of money to stay there and incentives to keep their business there.
Right.
And to keep the people employed. Right. Any way you look at it, that's welfare. It's corporate welfare, or it's individual welfare. So when you start taking all these things away from people and businesses, then you're going to see a significant backlash into the economy. And again, I don't want to discourage anybody from starting their own business, but I certainly want to make you sure you are very clear on what you're going to do. And please, if you are thinking about a business and you want to write a comment or ask me what I think about such a thing, feel free to. I'll be fine to answer you. So that I hate anybody. I've seen people put their whole heart and soul into something and it not work.
Right.
And when you walk in and you see the whole operation, you could tell them within 5 minutes, this will never work. But you don't say it because you want to break their heart. But then eventually they come to the conclusion that,
right. Yeah, because they have that belief. They truly believe that they love what they're doing. They really think their product is necessary for the environment they're selling it in. And then all of a sudden it doesn't really work. And
I got called in to help a company. It's a consignment shop. And they were not making any money. Doing a lot of business and not making any money. I said, well, how are you doing this? Well, they come in, they put a list price, they play 50-50 with the people that brought in the merchandise. Right. Okay. But if it doesn't sell, we go down to 75% and we still give them a 50-50 split. I said, okay. And then what happens when you go down below the 50?
Yeah.
Well, we still give them a 50. No. Yeah. When you get down to 50%, you tell them they can either take their product back because we can't split it anymore.
Right. We can't split it.
All right. And they said, well, no, they'll take the product back. I said, but they don't. And you know what? They didn't. So they ended up making a lot of money because they stopped giving percentages from 50% down. It was a simple thing. And they were afraid to do it, thinking, oh, they'll take all their clothes back. Right. No, they don't want them in the first place.
Yeah, right.
That's why they brought them there.
That's why they're in your store.
So I said, no. And they end up having a very profitable business.
Yeah.
And they actually did a lot of mail order too, because they went online with it and everything, and they're still in business. So,
Right.
it's just little tweaks to your business model
Hmm.
that can make the difference between, oh my God, it's not going to make it, or wow, we're doing very well.
Yeah.
So,
See, and that's interesting because, again, it brought me back to life again. And it's amazing when you look at the parallels when you're starting a business and when you graduate from school and you look at the steps that you have to take, they're like this. They absolutely parallel each other right through however many years it is that you decide you're going to do that. And if you could learn from one, you could learn from the other. And when you realize that they work together, there's actually ways where you can really make it quite profitable for yourself. And you'd be happy at the same time, because the whole reason you're doing it is because you enjoy it. It's fun. Yeah, business can be tough, but entrepreneurs have that thing inside of them that they've had since they were kids. Maybe they did a lemonade stand. Maybe they made bracelets, when they were 13 or whatever. There's that thing inside of them. They just, like you talk many times about the thrill of a sale or the thrill of, that kind
there's no question about it.
You get a new
rush.
customer.
It is definitely a rush.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a rush.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to forest for the trees. You got to make sure that the rush is great, but is it a profitable rush?
Right. And it's the same thing with life. You got to make sure that that's really what you want to do, because you're going to invest a lot of time and love and energy into making that thing work. And if you turn around one day and go, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, you got to be ready for that letdown. You got to be ready to take that whole part of your life, learn from it,
Absolutely.
Put it in the back burner and go, okay, what am I going to do now?
Yep, absolutely.
And that's a hard thing sometimes.
And especially if you're a couple and you have kids.
Yeah.
And maybe your wife is working, or whatever your situation is, one of you is working. But remember, before you did this, there was two incomes.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's added pressure on both of you.
Right.
And if you put the children inside of them, Paul, and I know, having kids is an expense.
Oh, yeah.
You love them to death, but they're an expense.
Yep.
And you don't want your kids to do without.
Right.
We both grew up in those areas and in that time, so. But but back in my time, it was tough. But everybody around us was tough.
Yeah, that was
when everybody else was, everybody else wasn't doing well. So you didn't. When you were a kid, you didn't know you weren't doing well. You were living like everybody else was living.
Right.
So
the only thing you might have seen was that maybe one of your friends' dad had a summer place, or they had a bigger, nicer car. They went on a vacation. That was the only indicator.
That's the only thing. And even then, the gap between the poor and the rich wasn't as wide as it is today.
True.
It just isn't as wide as it is today. Right. So that you could see a path to that position. Today, you can't see it.
Yeah.
It's not there.
Yeah. No, and I don't think the way society is structured, it's supposed to be there anymore.
Yeah, which I think is terrible. Do I think it could be there? Yeah, but again, I'm between high. You can't keep subsidizing everything.
Right.
You can't keep going into debt. Right. If we ran your business the way the government runs its business, you'd be out of business.
Out of business. Absolutely. Yeah, I would have closed years ago.
Yeah. Yep. So. Anyway, I think that's enough for today.
That's interesting.
I think I depressed everybody. I didn't mean to, but that's just we have to take some real hard look at what life is throwing at us right now, and be prepared. But there's the other thing is, and I firmly believe this: there is always opportunity in chaos. You just have to look where the opportunity is.
Yeah, that's it.
Always.
Yeah, because chaos does create opportunities that normally don't show up.
That's right. So just take a hard look around you and see what's going on. And believe me, when I tell you this, there are opportunities in chaos.
Yeah. So Corey, I hope this helped you.
And the other two guys they wrote in, I hope it helps you too.
Right. Yeah, because remember that there's always going to be the possibility that it's going to fail. There's always that possibility.
Yeah.
But you don't go into it thinking it's going to fail. You want to go into it because you have a love for it and you're willing to take those chances that are there, but temper your chances based on your incomes, based on what your expenses are. Like MJ was saying, anything can work in any environment, especially in chaos. And right now there's a lot of chaos in the world. but start small. Don't get yourself up so high at this point. Just like in your life, don't try and expect to be rich in 3 years. That's not how life works. Expect to work hard and make very little in the beginning. But that's how it works. You little by little. Anybody who's ever had a podcast knows that the first few months you're going, why is nobody watching? Why is nobody watching? But then they start watching. Well, just understand that that's how your business is going to be, and temper it. Take those nice baby steps little by little. And by the way, even though the government's in turmoil, don't be afraid to talk to the SBA. Am I right? Or SCORE, or people like that,
talk
because
while they're still there. Talk to them.
They've been through all these times before. They can help you with that. Okay.
Have a good day, everybody.
Enjoy. Thank you.